The overarching theme for this year's Archbishop's Annual Appeal is transforming faith. In each of the 4 videos you will see in the coming weeks, you will hear different and powerful stories of that transformation that faith, coupled with your generosity, have made possible.
So I'm Father Parker Love. I'm a priest for the Archdiocese of Regina. My family and I, we didn't grow up Catholic or anything like that. So just as like a young man, I didn't really have any kind of sense of direction. I didn't really know what I wanted in life. One of the things I would have struggled with is this kind of question of like purpose and what was I going to accomplish in my whole life, you know? But then I didn't really like believe in grace or God or anything like that until my dad's baptism. He came out of the font and he looked brand new. So it just really kind of impacted me that maybe the kind of grace of baptism is real. And the next day I told my parents that I wanted to be baptized too. And then they said, well, so are you going to start coming to church? There was a brochure at Resurrection Parish that was like 10 things a good Catholic man should be doing. And step 10 was you should also be discerning the priesthood. And I hated that idea. My only response was, I don't want to be a priest. I don't want to be a priest. I don't want to be a priest. But then finally in like October of the year I was doing RCIA, I just kind of had this real in prayer moment of like clarity that God is really asking me to seriously discern this and not just kind of shove it aside and assume that my vocation can be found elsewhere. The summer after my first year at the seminary, I was going to spend a week out in Canmore, Alberta with one of my classmates who I had met at the seminary. And we were going to go mountain biking, watch the Rider game. On Saturday morning at about 11 o'clock, I went head over my handlebars on my mountain bike.
I got the phone call. And it was his buddy who he was biking with. He'd said that Parker had an accident and that he was hurt. And he was hurt pretty bad.
Within a couple hours of the emergency room, I'd met with the spinal surgeon, and he told me that they were going to need to operate, and wasn't exactly clear what that would mean for the long term. Once that kind of finally settled in that this was going to be the long term, was definitely a hard thing to kind of grapple with.
I remember saying to Greg, though, I think the most important thing we need to find out right away is, will he be able to go back to the seminary? Because I think that's going to be the most important thing, is he's going to want to know when he comes out of recovery. That's going to be the first question he asks for sure.
Bishop Bohan at the time was really supportive right from the beginning and always insisted that like when I was ready and if I still wanted to be back at the seminary, he'd find a way to make it happen. Up until that point, I'd been trying to like lean on my strength and be the best seminarian that I could be. But what I really realized in my spiritual year was just the brokenness that existed in me besides my accident, right? And the brokenness that could only be repaired by God. The day of my ordination was kind of a culmination of a lot of things, right? Like this is kind of the culmination of what I've been building to. I look back in hindsight like my whole life.
I remember Parker telling me that every time he gave me communion after that, my eyes were full of tears. It was a good day.
The most obvious way that the Archdiocese has supported me is providing for my education and my formation as a Catholic priest. But then on top of that too, kind of the extra steps that they've had to take to empower kind of a disabled priest to serve in their community, right? The renovation costs to parishes or the renovation costs to rectories and stuff like that. If I had an opportunity to speak to a donor personally one-on-one, like I would try to make my gratitude as clear as possible, you know, like these are people who have realized that what they have been given has been given to them from God, and so they, in their faith and in their trust for God, do their best to give it back.
St. Paul reminds us not to be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. Sometimes God transforms us in ways we would never expect. For Father Parker, this transformation was from doubt to faith, from brokenness to healing, from trusting in his own gifts to relying on God's grace. His quest for and openness to God's guiding hand has led him here. We pray that along with all our newly ordained priests and our seminarians, and indeed all of us, you might continue to know and proclaim the height and depth of God's redeeming love for us. Your generosity through the Archbishop's Annual Appeal has played an important role in God's transformative work in the lives of all our candidates for ordination. I encourage you to look into some of the other programs and initiatives that the Annual Appeal supports, which seek to heal and restore hope to the wounded. Your donations to the Archbishop's Appeal help transform our church and our world, one person and one day at a time. Thank you, and God bless you.